Okay, let me ask you this question. And maybe we talked about it when we chatted on the phone. Do you remember her cooking? And now, the story of phone calls, interviews, case files, and Josh and Amanda spilling it all. I'm Amanda Fallon, and this is the Shirley You Can't Be Serious behind the scenes. Remember any meals that stood out or didn't stand out?
She wasn't very good at cooking. She would make box dinners, like Hamburger Helper, and I remember eating boxes of Frosted Flakes for dinner just because Eddie did. So we'd sit there and just be we'd have a big box of Frosted Flakes and we'd just both be pouring constantly. And I caught this fish once. It was just her and I brought it home. And my dad was at work, allegedly. And I handed this fish to her, and I said, hey, check it out. I caught this fish today. She goes, you want me to cook that for you? I'm like, sure. So I had gutted it and everything, but she cooked it whole. Fins, the whole 9 yards, and put it on a plate and handed it to me. And still got the eyes looking at me, and I'm like, come on. I can't eat this. It was charred, and you're supposed to cook fish for just a few minutes, and it was long. It was like cooking a steak. Big fish, she puts this big fish on a plate. Puts it right in front of me, So yeah.
So the only person in this world I think that likes her cooking was my dad. Who Shirley was a great cook. I looked at him one day, I go, no, she wasn't.
He doesn't have good standards.
He doesn't have good... No. There was one meal she made that I thought, okay, we looked forward to it because it was only 3 ingredients. It was, she would take a crescent roll and put it kind of in a ring, and she'd stuff chicken and broccoli with I don't know if she just used cream of some sort of sauce in it. And that one, I remember my sister and I were like, okay, that one's good. So anytime she'd be like, what do you guys want for dinner? We'd be like, can you make the crescent ring? Anything else though?
Did Shirley ever tell you the time I took her car?
No. She only had positive things to say about you.
Oh, I took her car.
I didn't know you ran away. I didn't know you were a troublemaker. I didn't know you took her car.
I didn't know you didn't get paid at N.
Yeah.
The truth shall set you free. No,
was this up in Alaska or Arizona?
No, it was in Arizona. She was out of town. So she had a white Monte Carlo or something like that.
She always had cool cars. Yeah.
And then Dad had his truck. And so Dad left for work, and Monte Carlo's just sitting there and the keys are on the little hanger thing by the door. And I was just like, you know what? I'm driving to school today. I was 15. I wasn't even able to drive yet. I didn't even have a permit or anything, but school was only, where we lived. And I went to Sabino, so that's less than 5 miles away. And I grabbed the keys and got a car and picked up all my friends. Went to school, parked, went into class, had a good day, came out, car's gone. I'm like, shit. I still have the keys. I was like, somebody to steal this. I was panicking. I was freaked out. So I got a ride with some other friend, and they pull up at my house, and I was like, hey, just drop me off on the street, because I could look into the carport, and I saw the car sitting there. I was like, in my dad's truck. So, yeah, I came walking in and paid the piper on that one.
Did Shirley just go steal it back from you?
I don't know. She wasn't even there. Like I said, she was out of town. I don't know how he did it. Because I'm sure he got home, saw the car wasn't there, and drove over to school to see if it was at school. So I don't know if somebody helped him, or I don't know. But I never asked, but I kind of got home and just walked out and started cleaning the pool, Nothing happened. And, yeah. I don't remember what punishment I had on that, but...
So what were punishments like from your dad?
Usually just grounding me. So when we went to Oxnard, when we flew to Oxnard, my buddies were like, so you're going to be out of town? I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, can we have a party at your house? I was like, well, you can't go in the house, but you can party in the pool if you want. And I was like, just clean it up. Don't leave a mess. And sure enough, they did. But what they did is they took all their beer cans and beer bottles and everything. And you know how the roofs are in Tucson. They're all flat, right?
Yep.
And they filled all these big hefty bags full of them. Tossed them up on the roof. Out of sight, out of mind, right? was like a couple months later, and my dad has to get up on the roof to tar the roof. And there's like 5 big-ass hefty bags full of beer cans. He comes down and he's like, hey, what's with all the beer cans? I go, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't had any parties. And so he's like, this was when we were out of town, wasn't it? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, call your friend. It was my friend Darren. So I call him and I say, hey, dude, if you had a party, you better come up with a really good excuse why all those beer cans are on our roof, because my dad wants to see you right now. I was like, get your ass over here. And he comes over there, and I could see him out there talking to my dad, and my dad's just reading him the riot act, and my buddy's just kind of standing there like, yeah, it was us. He admitted to it. But I got in trouble for that. Because he told me, well, Dan said we could have a party here.
Oh.
I was like, you dick. That's how that one played out. But he never did anything serious. I mean, he wouldn't let me get my driver's license when I turned 16 for stealing the car. And they had bought me a car. I had a BMW. Old one, but it was still a BMW.
It's still cool, though.
Yeah. Paint was fading on it and everything. But it still ran. I used to sit out there and drive it. But I'd rather drive the Monte Carlo.
Yeah,
But
Shirley's very first car was a Ford Fairlight?
I remember when she had the Gremlin. Gremlin or a Pinto?
Oh, she did have a Pinto.
Yeah, it was the
That
Pinto.
always broke down.
Yeah.
Supposedly that's how she met your dad.
Yeah, probably.
Did you ever meet Shirley's parents?
Mm-mm.
Did you ever? No.
No, I knew her brother died in Vietnam.
This story is just like the fun research we end up uncovering and the fun stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of helps balance out
The dark.
the dark, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie was so funny to talk to.
3's a little dark. It's Eddie's childhood with his dad, which isn't the greatest. Still worth listening to. But episode 4 that's the one that's all about Alaska, isn't it? A den mother and a scout.
Yeah.
I gave some of your links over to my youngest. So he met my dad. He's the only one of my kids that has. And then he's heard all the stories and all the dark stuff, and he's just like, that just blows my mind. And then I let him listen to the Mount Lemmon one. He's like, it's just traumatized him. He's just like, oh my God. He's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a lot to that. As I warned him ahead of time, I was like, there was more to this than I even was ready for. Because like I said, I didn't know about all the bloody gore details, about... I can imagine being a little family out there picnicking, and all of a sudden somebody comes out of the woods all bloody. And
I know, as a nurse, you listened to episode 1, didn't you? Or
The one outside? Yeah, most of it.
yeah,
the one where
Yeah.
the trauma. Part,
I just can't believe she got herself down the mountain and got in her car and drove.
Adrenaline.
And when you think about it, Mount Lemmon is the happy ending because they both lived, right?
Well, I haven't been up there since that happened. I used to go up there all the time. I love it up there. We used to skip school and drive to the top of Mount Lemmon and fill the back of the truck up with snow and get back by the time the final bell rang so that everybody could have a snowball fight out in the parking lot. We used to do it all the time. And because it would be like short weather down there and snow up there. It was the coolest thing. And, we'd go up there skiing in the winter. And in the summertime, we'd spend all of it in Sabino Canyon and cliff diving and doing all that good stuff. And never went back up there after all that. I just couldn't go up there. And but I remember my dad saying that he did all that, and then like he had a voice in his head that told him to stop. And he drove down the mountain and he parked at the bottom of the mountain. He said he could have got away, but something made him stop, and he stopped and waited for the police to finally arrive. That was the story back then. I don't know where that came from, but yeah. I don't know if you've heard that.
I haven't. No.
Yeah. And then I guess when they were coming down in the ambulance or something, they saw him by his truck or something and said, that's the guy right there. And that's how he got caught. Well, he told me that after the fact. Because he didn't tell me that like on the phone or anything like that. He told me after everything had been, because I asked him, I was like, tell me what happened that day. And he really wouldn't elaborate on it. He got into the whole You know, I could have got away, and nobody would have ever known, because nobody would have ever thought me, reputable family man in the military, nobody would have thought twice about it. And he told me that something made him pull over, and that's how it all unfolded.
I think
Whether there's any truth to that, I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's what he told me.
I think he is right to the degree that he probably would have gotten away if Sharon, the second victim, didn't slip her hand out of the handcuff and run down to get help. So I think he's
Very
right
possible
in that.
he could have just killed them both. And they wouldn't have found them for, who knows? I mean, they didn't find Joan Archer until Joan Archer until she was pretty decomposed, more or less skeleton. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Is that all he's ever told you about that day?
Other than, his excuse of flipping out, is what the nutritionist said.
Oh, I was going to share this with you earlier. I do think there's a couple people, and in one of the letters, somebody talks about it too. He, I think he really took the divorce with your mom really hard, and maybe you already know that. Okay, that's just through my research, that's what I've come across. And then he made a comment to us too in our interview saying, and it shocked me, he goes, I never should have married Shirley. I wasn't over my first wife. So it was kind of like he was apologizing. Like that was his way of apologizing, I think, for putting Shirley through all of that. That was the
Yeah. He said, I wasn't fair to Shirley because I married her when I wasn't available.
It was a pretty quick turn. I still remember like getting ready for school and coming out in the kitchen, and I guess she had just told him. He grabbed a hold of me and just wouldn't stop hugging me, and he was bawling his eyes out. I remember that. I'm like sitting there, I'm 11. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And she moved out into an apartment because she had been seeing my stepdad for a while. She worked with him. And apparently they went on a trip together to like San Francisco or something like that. And they were together. And she came back and she told him that she was divorcing him, and she moved out and got her own apartment. And he took that real hard.
Yeah, what did he tell us?
I kind of blame myself for that one falling apart. Well, I blame myself for everything falling apart, but Carol was the one I really loved, and which is such a bummer. I loved my outdoor stuff, and I did too much of that, and she felt left out. So she started finding her attention other places. And I get irritated at myself because had I not been out climbing mountains, hunting, fishing, doing all this other stuff, that might have worked out permanently. And marriage is supposed to work permanently.
And us, we're so morbid. We're like, wait, outdoor activities and things.
Wait, what does he mean by that? Yeah. So I did think that was, I think he really loved your mom.
Oh, I'm sure he
think
did
it was-
in his way,
Yeah.
He wasn't very good at showing it. I don't remember them ever being close together. But I don't remember him doing that with Shirley either.
Yeah, it seemed like they, there wasn't a lot of affection. That's what I get from her journal entries. It was more, Steve brought me roses. Steve took me to dinner tonight. Like that was her.
Nice. He was gentle.
Yeah, like it was.
He was a gentleman.
Yeah, he didn't.
So I think they had fun together. I think they did a lot of stuff together.
In
movies
retrospect, I remember because they would go on all these hikes and they would go see glaciers and everything a 13-year-old wants to go see, right? And they would do all these outdoors things, and she was all about it because she liked that stuff. I think she just filled a need for him at that time. They were just dating. I think that helped him get over my mom, because like he really wanted to get back with her, and I can remember, and my sister and I were having a hard time with it too, and we lived with my dad at first, while she was getting her stuff straightened out with an apartment and all that, and they didn't want to pull us out of our schools. And I remember one night my dad going, hey, I've got a date tonight, and she's got 2 kids the same age as you, and she wants to meet you. I'm like, all right. So we went sledding, I show up out there, and it's my mom. It wasn't a different girl. It was my mother. And I remember my sister and I went sledding for like hours, and they sat in the truck and talked, and then she left, and then they never did anything else after that.
How is your mom doing?
She's good.
These days, yeah.
She's good. It was a tough one with my stepdad dying, because she'd been with him since 81, whatever, 40 years almost.
Oh, so this was the same guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't put that together.
Yeah, they got married like right after my parents' divorce.
Oh.
And then they got married, and then they've gone through this all this time.
Does
together.
he have any kids, or did he have any kids?
No. He never had any. We were it. But she's good. I'll have to go check on her here this week or next just to make sure she's all right, because it's the anniversary.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's been 2 years.
Does she know that you're doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Does she? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She wasn't sure if I should do it.
I'm sure it's really hard.
Well, she just knows how it was back then, It's easier now, but back then, when it was still a thing, it was tough for anybody to even talk about it. So, if she wasn't angry at my dad before, she sure shit was then. She didn't want me to have anything to do with him for a long time. She didn't want me to mention his name, nothing like that. And then when we came back, that's when she was like, you guys need to go out there and get some closure to this.
I was going to ask you what
Which we
she
didn't
did
get.
for you guys, because I can only imagine. I've got 2 kids. You've got a daughter. It's like, what would we do in that situation? Like if it was our
She didn't do anything.
ex-spouse.
I mean, Leslie was Leslie. Leslie just kept going to school and everything. See, I had dropped out, and so I came to England, and they were asking me if I wanted to go back to school, and I'm like, no, I have no desire. And so they went to work, and I'm at home, and I'm just sitting there, and this was probably like a week after I had gotten there. My doorbell rang, and I opened it up, and it was the principal of the American school on the base, asking if he was bringing me donuts and coffee. And he's like, hey, let's just have a conversation. And he started talking to me about everything. He goes, I know a little bit about what happened and this, that, and the other. And he basically made me a deal. He's like, hey, I'll forget about the credits you've missed. I'll put you back on track, and you'll graduate on time. He's like, but you got to come to school tomorrow.
That's really cool of him.
I'm like, deal. And I did it. And I went and I graduated, and that was that. But, I'll never forget him. Chuck Recesso was his name. And, I don't know how they did it, but they did. If you look at my transcripts, it's all straight.
That's amazing. That's really cool that you had that hip.
And Chuck was there transferred from Iceland for a year.
Where all visas are coming together.
Your conspiracy theories.
London Central High School, originally called Central High, was located at U.S. Air Force High Wycombe Air Station. Later the school became London Central High School. High Wycombe was designed as an American base and was no longer used. The Air Force paid for the renovation and the move to the new school. 2 dormitories were opened and served students from several major air bases in southern England. Students from elsewhere in the United Kingdom, Scandinavia, Saudi Arabia, and Eastern Bloc countries were in residence 7 days a week. The school mascot, Bobcat, and school colors blue and white remained the same as the previous locations. The rock band America was formed by students Dewey Burnell, Dan Peake, and Jerry Beckley from London Central High School. The school had extensive extracurricular sports, academic and student government programs. For the 1987-88 school year, there were purpose-built and converted facilities at London Central High School. Cafeteria, library, theater, 2 gymnasiums, science labs, auto mechanics, industrial arts, home economics, cosmetology, computer programming and business laboratories, and multi-purpose rooms. By the 1989 school year, the enrollment had dropped to about 450 students. Administrators included Miss Nancy Spurlock, Dr. Charles Recesso.
Well, I hope. Look, it's funny to hear you say, I talked to my mom and wasn't sure if I should do this. Look, I don't think. I mean, even there's a little bit of us that we weren't sure if you should do this, right? And I hope it's only been positive for you.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Heck, after we released episode 1, I wasn't sure we should do this. I was like, we have to get episode 2 out. Quick. We can't leave everybody hanging on episode 1. What if your dad hears it? What if he gets mad?
And when we when we sat down with Eddie and I pulled the stuff out, and I'm sure you wondered the same thing, right? And you know Eddie more than any of us. I start pulling out the mics, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And he goes out and starts smoking cigarettes.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew him to smoke.
Yeah.
As he started.
Yeah.
He said it used to just be weed
Yeah.
back in the younger days,
Yeah.
and then it went to cigarettes.
And watching Eddie change, all right? At first he was very guarded, and he didn't want to talk to us because Amanda's dad was there, and he was like, I can't say any of the things I want to say out of respect for him. And then so Amanda's dad left, which I thought was huge, and I really respect that. And
I just don't remember him having a problem with her.
that's
I didn't either. So this is our theory on it. Listening to Eddie that day, Eddie had a rough childhood with his dad. And I think, in listening to him think that Shirley made up the fake death story, I think he felt abandoned by her, because he even told us she wasn't there to protect us because she was always working. Because her first husband never worked, so she was the one that had to go pay the bills. And so I think he felt abandoned. And he did mention once that he's like, well, it's not like we could run to mom and tell her about the abuse. She was just going to let him. That's the man's role. Right. He talks a lot about the role dynamic. So my entire time knowing Eddie, they were close. I did not think that Eddie and Shirley ever had a problem. So Shirley passes away.
Out of jail and,
yeah.
You know,
yeah. So Shirley passes away, and Eddie doesn't go to the funeral. And we start to get little hints that he's upset with her. And my theory is, so when somebody really close to you dies, you kind of go through those stages of grief. But not only are you going through those stages, you're also reliving a lot of memories. So I think the abandonment memory surfaced again, because he also made the comments like, she was only 78. She left me again. She didn't have to die. He was really mad at her for dying. But from age 15 for me until when Shirley passed away at 38, he came to Thanksgivings. He came to family dinners. There was never an issue. So it's interesting what death does and the memories it brings up. And
you guys have never been able to talk to Crane?
No. So Crane and I were really close. So they're a bit older than me. When I met Crane, I was 15. I think Crane was 37. You know, that's a big age difference for stepsisters. She had her own life. She was married with kids. In fact, her oldest son, Derek, is the same age as me. But we all did a bunch of family stuff together, and Crane became like not only a big sister, but kind of like a mentor. We were so, so close. And then I got pregnant when I was 20, and it was like she stopped talking to me. So I only had a 4-year relationship with Crane. My entire like adult life, it was interesting when you're like, yeah, she just unfriended me on Facebook. And I'm like, that doesn't shock me. I think she too has a lot of trauma, especially after sitting down with Eddie and hearing his childhood stories. I'm like, oh, this is a lot. Like, so no, I don't. It's really sad actually, because we were so close, and I don't.
And neither of them went to the funeral.
Crane didn't either?
No.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah. But Eddie he hasn't heard the podcast. Eddie's interesting. He spends all of his extra time. He's so smart though. Like he has a photographic memory. You probably remember, like, smartest dude ever. Like, probably could have became a doctor. But he's also one of those kids.
Has he ever drawn anything for you?
No.
He's a hell of an artist too.
Really?
He used to draw pictures for me.
You know, Shirley was
really
a good drawer.
Like really good artist, like detailed.
Wow. No, I've never seen any of his artwork.
Bring that up with me.
I don't even know if he does it anymore. I remember him.
I've never seen him draw, so I'm not sure.
I would tell him, I'd be like, hey, I want you to draw me a picture of this. And we'd be on one of those long trips through the country. And in Alaska, everywhere you go is a long drive. Okay, so this is a huge state. And we'd be back in the back of the truck because it was covered in the back. We'd just be chilling back there, and he'd have his sketchbook. I'd be like, all right, draw me a picture of this. And he would just be like, and he'd have all the shading and everything. And I was just like, I want to be able to draw like that. You know, it was really good. So I don't know if he kept with it or, you know, like I said, I haven't talked to Eddie since he was in jail.
Remember he told us about the art scholarship he won?
Oh, he did.
I bet it was for drawing. He never told us what it was. He did tell us a childhood story,
there were some teachers that saw potential in me even at an early age, and I won art scholarships to art camp, but I didn't get to go. And I remember how proud my teacher was, and he came there and says, you're really gifted and talented. I really want it, and I don't want to see this go to waste, and you deserve it. You earned it, and I was like, wow, and I'll never forget him, Dennis Johnson. And actually, my sisters even met with him in more recent years. He owns a coffee shop up there in Alaska now, retired teacher, but he was the first man that I recognized as what a man should be. But yeah, he got me the art scholarship, and then I won another one in high school in my drafting class.
And he said his parents didn't let him go or something like that.
We never really asked him about it, but I bet it was for drawing.
He was a really good drawer.
That's cool. Yeah, he's so smart and can remember everything, and he's so detailed. I was like, Eddie, you're like a star. Everybody loves you. You need to listen to it. And he goes, okay, well, this
Do you
one
get
time...
a lot of people listening to this?
We're probably getting... What would you say averaging a week?
500 people a week.
Really?
Yeah.
500.
And it's because we I have obsessively put so much time into each one of these, right? Even the one you listen to 7, and we didn't want it to just be people just talking. My attention span doesn't work that way. I'll fall asleep. So every piece of every episode has music, has sound effects. Yeah.
So episode 1 is chaos.
Yeah.
It's chaotic. We want it to be chaotic.
Who the hell's that talking?
Yeah, it's everybody telling the story from all their different little angles. And then we bring in Shirley towards the end, and she starts talking about prison and visiting
I
your dad.
recognized
So we
her
start
voice
doing that.
right away.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed.
And then we introduce you to Patty Wells. So it's probably 25 voices in episode 1. But then we start episode 2 and we take it to the beginning. And you start to we really slow it down.
Okay.
So then it's easier to follow. So it's kind of like, when you go see a movie and it starts with the climax first.
Yeah.
And then it works your way back in and it all starts to make sense. That's how this podcast works.
Okay.
So as you go through, so once you get to episode 4 and we take you back to your dad and Shirley,
Right.
then it's oh, okay.
Right. Well, I guess I have to invest a little more time into it.
Yeah. So episode 2 starts with Shirley's childhood. And it's okay, we got to take you back. How did this day happen? How did Shirley get to this day?
I'm following you now.
And then we take it back.
Well, after listening to that first one, I was just kind of
this is a lot.
exhausted.
I'm sorry.
I might have gone a little too diva on episode 1 because I just wanted to feel like everything coming at you, and it's just this overwhelming
It was a bit
especially for you.
from my perspective, because I remember that live.
Yeah.
A lot of it. So to hear it told from that perspective, it just felt real. All right. So it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It was good. It just, I couldn't turn it off because it was just feeding the fire.
Yeah. Well, episode 2 is all Shirley's childhood and Ed. How she meets Ed. And then episode 3 is Ed, how they get to Alaska. So we're kind of starting getting you back to that day.
If you hadn't sent me that link for episode 1, I probably would have never had you guys out here.
Really?
Yeah.
So our chaos worked?
It worked.
I'm just
Well, it just opened up a lot of doors that I didn't want people to walk through, but you guys have already walked through them. So, that's not a story that I like to tell. It's just not fun for me. My sister certainly doesn't like to talk about it, and she wasn't even there. And I've only told certain people about this whole event in my life on one hand. And to hear it told like it was, and opening up a lot of answering questions that I didn't know I had. I was like, well, I never asked that, but I never heard that. And you just kept rolling with it. And I'm like, it was just a never-ending just barrage of just stabbing, no pun. But it's just, to hear all that and just be like, holy shit. And then after that, I was kind of like, all right, we got to do this. But then you start telling me other things. I'm like, fuck. And I can only imagine, I may even have more questions after I read some of that stuff. Because I can remember that day, like yesterday, every bit of it. And I can tell you exactly everything I did the following day. And then after that, it kind of fizzles out. But those 2 days are profound in my brain. It was seeing it all in the news. I can still remember the visual of it. It's 10 times more horrific than I ever experienced. Hearing all that other stuff. So, yeah. But I'm glad I know now a lot of it.
Hopefully, it becomes healing at some point for you.
I don't think that's ever going to happen. All right, there's just certain things that can't. That was just being in the middle of a horror story, and I didn't even get the horror of it. It was just, it created its own horror for us, for me and Shirley, in more ways than one. It upset the balance of the family dynamic. It put me on the offensive, put her on the defensive. We had threats. We had weird shit happening. It was just, that was just our part of the story. And then you had Dad in jail telling everybody, I didn't do it. So, of course, you're believing him, because he taught you right and wrong, right? And then after 6 months of going through all that shit, or whatever, however what the time frame was, I don't remember. But, and then he tells you, I did it. Yeah. It's like getting hit by a 2x4, So, I don't know if that's ever going to heal. It's just kind of one of those things that just keep, I think he could probably heal that himself if he would. Like, my sister wants acknowledgement. She wants an apology. And she wants the truth. Is he willing to provide that? And I think deep down inside, that's what I want. I think he tried to apologize to me in the jail, right before I left when I saw him. But, I don't think he wants to acknowledge that he did those things. Or anything else, for that matter. I don't know if he did anything else. I don't know if it ever happened, but I don't know how many, but I'm sure it did in some context. It sucks. Because, like we talked in the beginning about bringing closure for those families, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Who knows?
The recurring theme is connection, right? When we sat down with your dad, oddly enough, a lot of the most positive things that were said, it's like when your dad was the only one that said, oh, this is quite the tribute for Shirley that you're doing. Mm-hmm. And he says, this is good. And you think about that, like I was thinking about that as we were sitting here eating. I'm in a home in Trenton. Like, you think about, this would have never happened if it wasn't for this story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hope that we've gotten. I've seen this be a really big, for me, seeing the healing that it's brought to Amanda. Like, that was my biggest motive. Because when we first started, I thought, well, these are all dead ends and this thing never materializes. At least watching her, the first time she called you on the phone, she was nervous and felt awkward. And the way that when we finally decided, okay, you got to call Steve, you got to talk to him. And it was Super Bowl Sunday, which is isn't that kind of a funny coincidence that, how big football is in your life? And I told her, I said, look, that's your angle. You call him and you say, hey, I don't want to take a lot of your time. It's Super Bowl Sunday. We had no idea it was going to be on. And sure enough, she calls him and he's got the Super Bowl on. So we were walking around doing role plays. And I said, okay, let's pretend I'm Skaggs. Call me. And then she said, ring. And I say, who are you? What do you want? Click,
Because we didn't know how he was going to.
And so we go through all these things. And at the end of the day, I said, you know what? It's a very disarming thing. Like, no one's going to hang up on. If you say, hey, you were married to my stepmom, and I just want some stories about my stepmom. And he, at first, I don't know if you heard I know you heard episode 7. I don't know if you heard episode 6 when she just cold calls him.
No.
Oh, yeah, the last, is it 10 minutes?
It's the last 10 minutes.
Is my phone call with Steve.
Yeah, I've only listened to like 1 or 2.
And so...
You gotta get caught up.
I know. It's hard to find time.
So think about, though, right? If we had called and said, "Hi, Steve, we want to talk to you about some cases in Tucson in the 80s," he would have...
Yeah, that probably wouldn't
That
have
would have
went well.
not, right?
He hung up on us, or...
Yeah.
But we didn't, and he thanked us for that at the end, too. It's like, we weren't there... We weren't there for the stories that he probably thought we were there for. We were there for the, hey, look, we've got these cool journal entries. We're going to read them. And then he filled in all the blanks. And I thought that was a really, again, we have to be really careful because we don't want to glamorize. We don't want to romanticize the scary parts of the story. But when we walked in there and that morning, you know, sitting with Amanda, she was just her face, just like, you know, didn't eat, we were gonna do it.
I just met the guy that I've been so scared of my entire life.
As the day progressed and we talked to him and we had this a very human interaction, I thought that was really, really
I know you
special.
mentioned in one of your podcasts that you were scared.
I was scared of that.
You can hear it. So in episode 6 when she's
Yeah,
on
in
the
my phone call.
you
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
That's weird.
I got this. Okay.
Hello?
Hi, is this Steve?
Yes.
Hi, Steve. My name's Amanda. You don't know me, but I'm Shirley's stepdaughter.
And, you know, and I'm just sitting there with her, like, it's all right, it's all right. Hey, what's the worst?
You probably don't know why I'm scared of
No.
him.
That's
Okay.
what I'm getting at is like, what were you afraid of?
So, Shirley was scared of him. So, I knew the Shirley that received a letter in the mail when I was about 16, warning her that he was going to be getting out of prison soon. And I could see the fear in Shirley because she said that he was mad at her for divorcing him. And she was always scared that he was going to come back and find her. So I internalized that fear watching her visibly upset. And you know how our mind does really crazy stuff. At least mine. I'm a very anxious person. My mind goes wild. So I'm like, what if he does get out of prison and comes and finds Shirley and like kills us all in our sleep? Just crazy ideas. Even to the point where I was like, what if one of his cellmates owes him a favor? And it's not even him that comes after. Because people would be like, well, he's old now. And I'm like, no, what if he has a younger cellmate that like owes him a favor? So like these crazy ideas. Because I only knew him as, I had no memories with him. I had never met the guy. Mm-hmm. I only knew him as the guy that attacked 2 women on Mount Lemmon. Corain telling me he was in connection, you know, of the disappearances in other women. And me finding the cold case online later on, and then seeing Shirley afraid. That's the only thing I knew about your dad. So I'm like...
That's a lot.
So that's what I've lived with. So to call him, it was me facing probably one of my biggest fears. Which is so silly, because, like, he was never going to do any of that. But that's just... Our minds can play really crazy tricks on us.
You know, when he came out to visit on both occasions, I had a very limited scope of trust there because of that. Just from that fear. It was not, would he have done anything? No. But that thought creeps into your head, you know?
Yeah, and I've seen way too many horror films. And
so
that probably, and way too many true crime. And you're just like, what if? But
let's go hide behind the chainsaws.
Yeah, so somebody who I never ever wanted to see in my I knew, I was like, well, I can't do this story without, from like a journalistic approach, you can't tell a story and talk about people with not reaching out to them and giving their voice an opportunity to tell their side of the story. So I knew I had to do that. I knew it wasn't going to be as successful as we wanted it to be without reaching out to him. We knew from the beginning we weren't going to ask him
But how
any
bad
hard
did you want
questions.
to?
I was scared. I think the fear still played in me.
And this is why I think the story hasn't stopped. Because I told her, I said, first things first, let's sit with him. And then we'll see what we're working with. So when we achieved objective number 1, which was watching Amanda sit in front of him and then kind of relax and talk to him, then we were still able to, because don't forget, the story's called Shirley, You Can't Be Serious. And there's plenty of really wild stories within the Shirley story. And that's where Amanda fits in. This is her stepmom. And we just happened to luck out that we have the Ed Carroll part and the Steve Skaggs part. And so...
Which are both stories on themselves.
Yeah. They're Stephen King novels, both of them. And when you... So the other thing that I think I wanted to be really subtle about is a lot of people are still alive. There's a lot of victims out there. But also, if we can tell the story without the elephants in the room, the story kind of tells itself. So sitting down with Steve and having all the context was enough to feel very chilling. And without us, we're not going to speculate. We're only going to bring in facts. And so
I will also add, I started working on the story when Shirley was still alive. And she did not want me to reach out to your dad. So I never did during that time. She did not. She was still very much terrified. And she was really worried about even her interviews, him hearing them. So she's still very afraid, right? So I had that. And then I had the court transcripts. So now I know what he did that day on the mountain. It wasn't just this like, oh, he attacked 2 women. Now I know minute by minute what happened that day. So sitting down with him, I had a whole nother level of fear because now I'm like, oh my God.
I know what you did.
Yeah, I know what you did. So to Josh's point, sitting there listening to him tell these stories, it was a really emotional, even confusing interview for me because at one minute he's sitting there telling us that all he has are his cats to talk to. I don't know if we put that in the episode or not. Yes, he's married, but we kind of got the vibe that he's kind of alone. I don't know, maybe. So you start to feel bad. Just as a human, you're like, oh my gosh, how sad. And then in the very next story, he's telling you how he's flying his airplane to really remote areas where nobody can hear you scream. And I just read his court transcripts. And so then I would it was a very confusing in and out interview. And he hadn't read the court transcripts at this point. But
for me, it was interesting to watch this all go down because I'm sitting here with Amanda, right? I literally under the table, have my hand on her leg and watching her visibly feel compassion. I don't think you were expecting to feel a lot of the things. So that, I think, to me, and as we get older, you realize, oh, life is a series of moments that are human moments. And in that day, I felt really deeply that we were only to have this human interaction that could lead to other things. It could lead to a rapport with him where he could later, if he wanted to tell us other things, he could. But it was really going to bring a lot of answers for Amanda. That is the really funny irony, is that a lot of the people, like Eddie, sat down and didn't have a lot of good things to say about his mom. And a lot of these stories that we've heard, when Amanda started reading the journals to your dad, he was like, oh yeah, I remember that day. And it was vivid. The story about Leslie fishing that he recounted in a lot clearer way than you did, even after his heart attacks and things, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of, I think that to me is my favorite part of this, is that you go search, like Amanda had to go to the other side of her deepest fear to get the sweetest stories of her stepmom. And we would have never expected that at the beginning of this. And it was very humbling too, is for me to say, we're all really quick to judge other humans, but we're all humans, and we could all be monsters, and we could all be some of the things that he said about being a dad in Alaska were very touching. And I don't think he was doing it for us to have pity, but he told us, he was telling us, I wanted to do this and then now I can't, and I wish I could. And so I think maybe if the justice system if we felt like it failed, which it did a lot, but there's a lot of justice that the universe has brought to the life of your dad that is, it's not good or bad. It's just, it's full of emotion. And not everybody, and granted, we're not going to expect like the victims' families to be open to that kind of experience with your dad, but that's not our responsibility either. We're here for this story, and whatever you feel, whatever your thoughts are, just that. I always was sitting down with Eddie. I was like, I don't know what to expect with Eddie.
And then he started. We sat down. The very first thing he says to us is,
The person that you know was completely different from the one that my sister and I grew up with, and I don't even know where to go with that.
And it's interesting to hear that exact thing you're talking about, how the person that you know isn't the person that I know, or that Steve knows.
Yeah.
And then we've met with other people that it's very obvious that, the guy that, some people met on a trail isn't the same guy that we sat down with. It's a very interesting thing, right?
And people change too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For good or worse. Either way they change.
and then we were just like, what is Eddie going to tell us?
And so it was hard to recover from that because these are people's truths. So we can't, there's nothing, and whatever you say, we got to be open to it because it's whatever you say. Just the same way Amanda's dad is listening and he's hearing some really hard things about Shirley that he's been a really good sport about. So
Did you know my dad went and met your dad that day? We brought him. So he's the other Steve in the room.
How'd that go?
So I asked your dad on the phone. I was like, hey, I'm going to be with my dad because I didn't know if he could come or not. And I wasn't going to go meet your dad alone.
Sure.
At this point. Yeah, my dad will actually be with me next weekend if it's okay if I bring him.
Imagine it is.
and then you say, his name is Steve too?
So here's a funny little fact for you. So she married my dad in 2001 and his name is also Steve.
It's also Steve?
Yes.
Well, at least you didn't have to learn anything new.
Yeah.
And it is, right, he's very charismatic. We sat down, he joked with me a lot.
And yet I see so much love and so much positiveness that it's very rewarding. Even this Californian.
And I thought that was just so funny. We grew up in the same area. We swam in the same swimming holes and went to the same mountains. And we were talking about the same stuff you were talking about, Blythe and Needles and all those areas. And it was interesting. There were a lot of parts of it that were surreal. I think the fear probably dissipated within the first 5-10 minutes of us sitting down. And then also like facing a lot of the realities, right? The context completely changed. And I think Amanda walked away with it.
That meeting went so well. We didn't feel the need to ask those questions then. But I'm hopeful that we'll have one more meeting with them.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot to say to him, so.
Yeah.
We wondered.
I'll tell him Merry Christmas and things like that, but.
Yeah.
So, running out of people to have closure for, I guess. Who knows? There, I said my piece.
Coming up next time, do you plan to see your dad again?
He probably killed 10 or 12 dogs.
I looked a little closer, and he was putting peanut butter on his junk.